Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Drey Davis with episode number 12 of the Let Me Say This podcast. I am joined today with my two fantastic co-hosts. Number one, my ace, Rafael Rhodes. Number two, my man in the hole, Anthony Lykes. Fellas, how y'all feeling today?
I'm feeling great, fantastic.
Outstanding.
On to the conference finals.
We had a great weekend of sports, and it was exciting to watch, and a lot of stuff going on that we were excited to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. We did. This weekend, we had the opening of a new season for the WNBA, and we are getting ready to close out the season for the NBA, and we are getting ready to gear up for the conference finals. Before we get into that, though, I do want to touch on a couple of games that I was able to watch this past weekend with the WNBA. They had a fantastic showing this past Sunday. They also made sure to feature two players that I feel like are about to revolutionize women's basketball. And that's why I wanted to start the show like that, because I feel like it goes without saying that the direction for the NBA and WNBA as well is through our women. So, without further ado, we got to go ahead and jump into the altercation that happened this past weekend. Something
I know who you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Something that I personally felt like I watched the game live. I didn't think anything of it. You know, I think more specifically from a man's perspective, and I'm not trying to, gender bias or anything like that, but from a man's perspective, I've seen that play 100 million times in the last 30 years of my life. A hard foul on an easy layup is what the coaches teach you to do. Fellas, tell me what you thought about that particular incident and how it made you feel.
I would say pull up the screen, but I don't want no copyright issues. I haven't even seen it, so I'm gonna let y'all kind of.
It'll be in post production on the clips.
I'll let y'all have this one. I ain't even seen it.
I will say from what I saw, it's a basketball play. Angel Reese just does not like Caitlin Clark, and I understand there may be some friction there from their college days, but let's get over it. It was a basketball play. No need to hate it. She's not a dirty player.
No.
It was just a basketball play.
Purely a basketball
play. It was
play.
A pure basketball play. It doesn't make somebody dirty for having a basketball play. It was just a basketball play.
That's right. And so since I got the clip pulled up and I do have it muted, I actually will go ahead and share the screen. So that way, if you are a fan and you weren't able to catch the WNBA game this past weekend, or you're like Anthony, you just living in a hole, I'll make sure we get that pulled up.
Very oblivious.
So I'm going to get this pulled up here. I'm going to get it in full screen. Make sure y'all tell me, fellas, if y'all can see it before we go ahead and get this play.
I'm good.
So this is just a little bit of the play. As you can see, Angel Reese was able to get that rebound. She got a bit of a touch foul there from Caitlin Clark. She immediately got up, kind of chased behind her. Caitlin Clark got up with the hands up. Aaliyah Boston came to Caitlin Clark's aid. She also picked up a tech on this play for defending her teammate, which I thought was really, really absurd. As you can see in the clip here, Angel Reese is really, really upset, pulling her jersey off. She says some very obscene things to Caitlin in this moment. Again, if you're looking at the play, there's a little bit of a flail. There's a little bit of a flop. Like I said, this is purely to me just a basketball play.
It's a basketball play.
Yeah, that's very like
after review. So what I didn't like was after review, they upgraded this from a common foul to a flagrant foul.
Yes.
Caitlin Clark alluded to, I watched a little bit of her press conference, that A, it was a basketball play. B, she went for the ball, which I thought was really, really important. We see these kind of things all the time, like I said, in the NBA. And we kind of get the same reaction sometimes. I think it's theatric sometimes. I think it's a little bit that goes into it. But I mean, I don't know, fellas. The way that I look at it the same way as I look at how they tried to do Steph and LeBron a couple years back, as far as like trying to generate a rivalry through media, as opposed to an actual on-court rivalry, an actual dislike between two players.
But you got to think the WNBA had really a time where they less than 30 years old, well, soon to be 30 years old. So a time where they just had two big stars. So, and not even a LeBron Steph level. They trying to Magic Bird this thing. Is what they really trying to do with that.
And listen, they have the capability of it because they have two stars like Angel Reese, like Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
You got to give them their due, but at the same time, like the reality of it is it's a basketball play.
Basketball play.
And I, as being the referee on today's show, would agree. Like, you don't call that a flagrant. You don't call that a flagrant. I'm sorry. Like, you know.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, I feel like this is a playoff setting. Common foul. You know, if they're in the bonus, 2 free throws and keep it pushing.
And it was just a common foul. It was just a common foul. It's not a. You're not talking about. She didn't take her head off.
Nope.
She reached in, it touched, and that's all it was. It was a common foul. Like, why are we making such a big deal about it when it really isn't a big deal?
I don't even think from the criteria of a flagrant foul that any of the criteria was actually met, other than at best the swipe down.
Yeah.
But maybe, but it barely hit her.
Maybe. That looked like marginal contact. Yeah, that looked
it was nothing. It was. I mean, you're talking about it shouldn't even be discussed. It was a foul that had no impact on the game.
Yep.
I mean, and Caitlin Clark, all she was doing was trying to get the ball, and the way it came across, it's a basketball play. We used to see this in the 90s when I was watching basketball religiously.
That's right.
I mean, that was Michael Jordan's heyday. That he suffered from that every time he touched the ball.
That's right.
You know, so why are we making a big deal about this? What is it? Because it's Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese? Just let them play. Just let them be athletes. They want to be athletes. Let them be athletes.
And since we speaking on officiating, and since I have it's a part of the reason. It's part of the reason I wore this shirt today too.
Talk to us.
I want to shout out to the NBA refs because referees in general, but since we're in the NBA playoffs. And, and we talking about this, shout out to the refs because we've been watching these games and now we're only in the conference finals. It's only been, I want to say at least 2, maybe 3 plays that have been questionable. Like we had the lane violation with the Tyrese Halliburton missed free throw.
Yep.
And Detroit, when they played the Knicks, they didn't call the foul on somebody that was closing. I think they was closing out on a shooter for Detroit and they didn't call the foul. Those are only the two questionable things that I saw throughout the course of this playoffs. But overall, in totality, like there's not been moments where the referees tried to take over the game and the referees are making it about them. You know what I'm saying? Because little ego involved and stuff like that. So like as much flack we give the refs through all sports,
they've done a really good job.
Yeah, as far as the NBA playoffs go, there hasn't been any issues outside of those 2 issues that I've seen that.
But overall,
the referees have missed.
What I've been liking about the NBA and the refereeing there is they're letting them play. I mean, this is the time that you do let them play. You let them play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You let them play when the games matter. You let things go. You let them take the NFL. Take the NFL for example, right? If you take the NFL for example, and you watch these playoff games and you go, "How is that a pass interference?" Kansas City.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense to me. How do you make that? How do you call that pass interference when it's just they're playing defense? All they're doing is playing defense. How is that a pass interference call? So when you start seeing that kind of stuff happen, it makes me happy that the NBA is actually on board with just letting the teams play.
Yeah, and then as far as it is, because they got that phrase, the superstar call. I mean, well, we got the stars, but a lot of these guys, there's not really that many established stars in the playoffs left. Like Jokic was probably as far as the second round goes, was probably the last established star. Jason Tatum got hurt, so he didn't get to play in 2 games. But so now we don't have any established stars at the moment that'll probably get those favorable calls. Like everybody else is like SGA going to win the MVP. And I feel like they was waiting on this round to end for them to announce it, but he's not an established star yet. And Edwards, who we basically I won't say undisputed or unanimous face of the league, but like the front runner to being face of the league, not an established star yet. Yeah,
his
They're
stardom is
still
based
growing.
upon
yeah.
his
So
stardom is based upon what happens in this series.
yeah, so
It
those
is
guys are not. Yeah,
completely upon
those
that.
guys are not going to get those calls that we would probably see like deeper in the rounds that we would see LeBron or Steph get or a KD. So
But
so I
even
like that
but
as well.
even LeBron has said, like, if you look at the league now, right, and he says Anthony Edwards is going to be the face of the league one day. He has that much faith in Anthony Edwards, and I would have to agree. But he's getting an established star right now. He's getting to that stardom point as we speak. Is he there yet? Not yet, but he's getting there. And I still think that as of right now, your top guys playing in the games right now are Anthony Edwards and SGA and Tyrese Halliburton, and neither of them are getting just favorable calls. Do you know what I'm saying? They're all getting played fairly in the game, and I like that about the state of the NBA. They're playing it fairly. It's become a fair game. How can we be mad at that as fans?
I don't think we have a way to. Before we completely transition away from the WNBA into the NBA in the conference finals, I do want to give a shout out to a couple of other WNBA stars that I did get a chance to look at this weekend. Reigning MVP, somebody that I feel like potentially could be. I don't know if she's already done it before, but I feel like she's probably going to go back to back on MVPs this year. Miss Angel Wilson gave us a 30, a 10, and I think she had a couple assists to go with that.
Game.
She's the best player in the game by far. Brianna Stewart was also another player that I was able to get a look at this weekend with the Liberty. I think she had a little bit over 10. I'm sorry, 20. The person I was very, very happy to get a look at, considering she was just in Birmingham a couple weeks ago, not too far from where I am. Paige Buckets. She kind of struggled a little bit in her debut. She had 30 minutes on the floor. She had 10 points, about seven assists, 2 rebounds. I saw a little bit of a clip. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I'll try to include it, where it looked like she was already complaining to the refs. I don't know. Before we, I know we're talking about refs, but before we go completely into the NBA, y'all have any thoughts on like how it must feel to be qualified, I guess professional level, you know,
You got to earn your keep in the
official,
league.
and to how would you feel about a rookie complaining about a call as opposed to a Diana Taurasi, a Asia Wilson, a Brianna Stewart, Maya Moore? I know a couple of them are either in or retired, but I mean, does that matter to y'all that she's trying to get calls already?
You gotta earn your space in the league. That's all I'm gonna say.
I can
Keep it
see
short.
a point. I can see a point to earn your spot.
Right.
Or earn your space. You just got here. You're here for a cup of coffee.
Literally.
Earn your chance to really secure your spot, and I get that. But at the same time, I mean, she is a pro now. You got to let them play.
You got to deal with it.
It's kind of hard because you gotta let them play.
I'm about to say, did you not just see what Caitlin Clark went through? We
Yeah,
talk
you
about
gotta-
hard
you gotta
foul.
let them play.
It's ironic you brought up that foul on Angel Reese, the Caitlin Clark foul. What's the Shitty Carter or whatever her name that foul Caitlin Clark last season? That
Yeah.
foul was way more
worse.
than what
Yeah,
happened
it
to
was
Angel
pretty
Reese.
egregious.
And so
Yeah.
Paige, you see what I was gonna say. So you see what happened to Caitlin Clark last year, Paige. So it's your turn now. And
But
when
she's
Juju gets
gonna
here,
she's gonna get her chance though. I mean, she'll get
She
her
is.
chance.
Well, Paige, from the Let Me Say This crew, I guess it's time to get in your bag and get some buckets like your last name says. But we're going to transition right into the NBA ranks, conference finals. As Anthony alluded to in the episode that we recently did, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, 7th year in a row?
so we're going on 7 years
We are
now.
going to see a new champion for a 7th year in a row. Something that, like I said in the last episode, I'm really excited about as a pure fan. I always love to see the joy on the faces of players that have never experienced, such pinnacles in life. Players that have never been in the conference finals. Players that have never played so deep into June to get to the finals, and now we're down to 4 teams.
And not only that, no, keep going. Or what you was about to
I was
finish
about to
up?
say, on the Western Conference, we got the Timberwolves And we got a really, really good team as well. I really like the Timberwolves, but I'm sorry. We got the Timberwolves, and then on the West Coast joining them, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, the top seed. And over there in the Eastern Conference Finals, Triple H
A throwback,
and the
series.
WWE couldn't have wrote a better script a couple years ago, bringing
Ooh,
those two guys into the ring
a
and
couple years ago. That
foreshadowing.
was a few
Just
months
a
ago.
year.
That was
Yeah,
back
I'm
in
sorry, a
About a
few
year
months
ago.
ago. Yeah, I was about to say not even that long ago. They
that
couldn't
was
have
back
wrote
in
a better script.
February.
Bringing those two guys, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, the two top stars of their respective teams, into the ring, foreshadowing that one day they would be up against each other in the championship. And now here we are. So we're gonna talk about the West Coast first. Anthony, you first.
I
Predictions, anything you got for this particular series?
before I go into a prediction, I'm gonna give a shout out to this player. Y'all probably know where I'm about to go. Y'all probably don't, but I'm gonna say shout out to Aaron Gordon because it takes a lot of courage to go out there and do what you did. He's had big moments in the play in his recent playoffs with the game winners he's had, but to do what he did and still somewhat in a way contribute on one leg
Yep.
to just basically, hey, if we go out, I'm gonna go out fighting with y'all. So props to him. That far to me is probably bigger than those game winners that he had in the throughout the course of the playoffs. So props to Aaron Gordon on that. And what is the Nuggets' future? I don't know. We'll get deep dive into that later. But sticking it to the conference finals, I like the matchups. You got a Rudy Gobert, Chet, and Hartenstein. You got Anthony Edwards versus SGA. So because I feel like the winner of this, well, SGA is going to be the MVP, but the winner of this, SGA could take the MVP and kind of make himself the face of the league. So it's a bunch of storylines in this particular series. But I think the Thunder, as we saw, they have more depth. They have more players that can go out and put up numbers on any given night. Like we see what Jay Will did. Of course, SGA, he's been consistent throughout the playoffs. So I'm gonna just go with the Thunder. I'll say in 6.
Okay.
Thunder in 6.
And
Yeah.
before I let you off of that particular question, I did want to add a subsidiary question to that. Give me your X factor on both teams. Who will be the difference maker on both teams that will make this series what it is, whether it be make or break?
Uh, you can be obvious. I can go with the obvious and say like a Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren, but I'm gonna say Alex Caruso for the
Okay.
Thunder.
Okay.
Alex Caruso.
And for you, did you see what he was doing to Jokic?
Yes, I did.
And for
they call him the Jokic stopper.
and for the Timberwolves, like I said, an obvious answer could be a Julius Randle or the guy Jaden McDaniels, but I'm gonna go Nas Reed.
Yeah, I like that.
So
Rafael, give us some predictions, some X factors on both sides for the Western Conference, and just your thoughts on the Western Conference Finals.
I think as we alluded to when we started the podcast, I think the Western Conference has lived up to the hype of the Western Conference. I mean, I
100%.
truly feel that they have had the best series throughout the entire playoffs, all the way around. I mean,
Absolutely.
no team disappointed. There wasn't really a big shock, but there were teams that hung in there a lot longer than I thought they would, and won more games than I thought they would. So,
Yeah.
personally, I do like. I think Oklahoma City will win. I agree with Anthony. When you look at Alex Caruso and what he put up, and Chet Holmgren, who's been the defensive anchor for that team throughout this round of the playoffs, I think I still say you got to run it through your stars. And X factor for me is going to be Tom Thibodeau and Rick Carlisle on
That's what I was
both
looking to
sides.
hear. Yeah.
So the X factor for me is going to be Tom Thibodeau because he's been there before. He knows what it takes, and I think he's got the team gelling at the right time.
Yep.
However, I cannot discount the Minnesota Timberwolves going through Anthony Edwards, who I believe is going to be the face of the league.
Yeah.
I just can't deny that, and I think it's going to be I think it's going to go to 7. I think this is going to go to 7 as well, and I see Oklahoma City pulling it out and going to the finals.
Okay. I like that. I'm sorry. I got to double back to you, Anthony. Conference Finals MVP. That is a newer
Oh yeah,
award that is given out.
the Magic Johnson
But
Trophy for the West and the Larry Bird for the East.
give me your Conference Finals MVP prediction.
I'm gonna go for the West. It's the typical answer, but I'm gonna just say SGA. And for the East,
Oh, hold the East. We're gonna come
okay,
back to
okay,
the
okay,
East. We're
okay.
gonna come back
Touche,
to the East.
touche, touche.
Rafael, you got somebody for the West that you picked the Thunder to win this.
Hold
So
on, can I ask this? Can I ask this?
yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Could we finally see in the first time in a while? Could a loser finally a loser win an MVP of one of these rounds, finals/conference finals? Could we
I'm glad you
just
brought
see
that.
you.
I'm glad you
I
brought that up,
think you're
Anthony.
ahead of me on my prediction.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm picking Anthony Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking Anthony Edwards the entire way because the Minnesota Timberwolves wouldn't be where they are if they didn't have the grit of Anthony Edwards.
Exactly.
So I am picking Anthony Edwards for the Western Conference MVP, win or lose.
Right.
If they make it to 7 games, he has a solid fight for the Western Conference MVP. And nothing against SGA. I think SGA is a talent. I think that dude is a stud. But I don't see. I see Anthony Edwards as the MVP of the West.
Well, I guess that leaves just me. So when I look at the preview just of the Western Conference Finals, honestly, the matchup is very well. We got some age that looks very, very good in the conference finals. Kind of reminiscent of, I think, the 2012 NBA Finals between the Heat and the Thunder, where you got some ages that kind of match up at the peaks at the right time. I think the Thunder, as far as Game 5 and Game 7 of this most recent series, played really well. Of course, nobody expected them to really win Game 6. But going into this series against the Timberwolves, I gotta agree with Raphael. I can for sure see it 7, but I gotta see it 7 going the Thunder's way. If they have a chance to close out this series at home, I don't see them having a problem in front of their home fans doing so. I'm gonna go a little bit off the cuff, actually, and probably agree with you, Anthony, that I think Shea will end up being the conference finals MVP. However, I'm gonna go completely off the grid and say that I think the X factor in this series is Lou Dort. I think the defensive presence of Lou Dort and the shots that he's able to make from game to game. When Raphael talked about it. When you talked about, I talked about this a couple weeks ago when the playoffs first started. When you talk about coaching adjustments, when you talk about coaching, when you're talking about making the right moves at the right time, you got to be some gamers. You're expecting Jalen Williams to come ready to play. You're expecting Shea to come ready to play. You're expecting Jaden McDaniels to come ready to play. You're expecting Anthony Edwards to come ready to play. I want to see what Lou Dort does. I want to see what Rudy Gobert does. I want to see what Mike Conley does. Those are the guys that I think are really, really important when it comes to this series. I think this series is nothing without your 9 through 12, because your 9 through 12 is who is going to win you the game when the 1 through 5 are not out there, or 1 through 7 for that matter.
I do want to say this before we move on to the East.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain players that have revitalized their career in these series, and two of them that come to mind. One of them you just mentioned is Rudy Gobert, who has revitalized his career,
and there's none better than
and Russell Westbrook has shown the NBA and their fans that he is not washed up.
Yeah.
He can still go, he can still produce, and he still brings value to a team. So if you're looking at those factors, I mean, very impressed with what they did in the West as far as that goes. I am happy to see basketball get back to its very competitive ways instead of going, oh, okay, it's the Lakers with Luka and LeBron. We know they're good because Luka's good. We know LeBron's good because it's LeBron. And nothing against the Lakers, but very predictable.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that we see this, and I'm very, very happy that the West appears to have gotten it right.
Yeah. Like you said before we move on, I was definitely watching Game 7 the other day, and I was like, man, it's so weird to not see Laker purple and yellow, LeBron out there on the floor, at least making it to the second round. But I'm really elated. Like I said in the last episode, Anthony alluded to it as well. Seeing new champions is so much more important than seeing the same repeat champion and trying
Because
to
it's
build
fun.
legacies.
Because it's
Exactly.
fun.
That's exactly
It's
what it
fun to
is.
see. It's fun to watch. We're enjoying basketball again.
And another thing too, as far as the 7 years, seven different champions, we look at 2021, we look at 2000 and 2023. Two small market teams have in that time won a championship. 3 out of the 4 teams remaining are from small markets, so there's a high possibility that the odds would tell us that. And I know who my finals champion is going to be, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
When we get there.
So like I said, 3 out of the 4 teams, the potential champion could be from another small market. So there could be 3 potential champions in this 7-year window that have come from small markets. And I'm gonna keep talking about small markets because, as we all kept saying, gotta highlight the small markets. We're a small platform
That's right.
right now, but
right.
we can still highlight the small markets. We don't need to highlight the big markets to try to get viral. You know what I'm saying?
And we should appreciate what the small markets are bringing to the sport.
That's right.
Yes, like I said,
know what I'm saying?
the OKC formula, like talked about the previous episode with the OKC formula teams. So small market teams that have not really, seen that success yet, or even a Detroit Pistons model, like. Not saying they got to be as bad as the Pistons were, but with the right coaching, you find you a star player, you get some quality guys that like quality veteran guys that have been in the league 6, 7, 8 years plus to come play for the team, and you go from there. You work your way through the ranks from being a play-in team and then being a team that makes it to the playoffs and that can advance further in the playoffs. So because who expected the Pacers to do what they did 2 years in a row? Not me.
Exactly.
I didn't see it last year, and I didn't see it this year.
Nobody saw the Pacers doing what they've done. And
Minnesota, back to back. They first playoff series last year. They won their first series in first time in 20 years, and when they beat the Warriors, it was their first time winning a series at home in a while. So
let's bring up the East. Let's bring up the East a bit. What do you guys think about that?
Let's talk about the home of WrestleMania 1. Let's talk about the home of WrestleMania 10. Let's talk about the home of WrestleMania 20. Let's talk about the home of the New York Knicks.
08. But yeah, shout out John Cena. But
so to transition into our Eastern Conference Finals, and I mean, I'm probably making it very, very clearly obvious who I'm favoring in this series. So I guess I'll start. I got the Knicks in 6, baby. We are the New York Knicks. And whether you call that
Rafael's playing contrarian, okay, cool. I thought
I like
was gonna
that.
have to do it.
I like that. And before I start my rant, I want to give a huge shout out to my boy Luke. He's a very, 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 very dear, like diehard Knicks fans. He was there when Carmelo was on the floor. He was there when Danilo Gallinari was on the floor. He was there when Jeremy Lin was on the floor.
When they booed Kristaps when he got drafted because they didn't take Jahlil Okafor.
When Kristaps got booed. He was there when they were supposed to get Katie, Kyrie, and Zion.
A pipe dream, baby.
And so here we are, some 7 or 6 years later, looking at the New York Knicks, who have a very good chance of making it to their first NBA Finals since I was born. I haven't.
All right, wait, but make me feel old, Drey. Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
I had to age it and also throw a little salt and dirt on our conference rivals in the New York Knicks. First, I'm gonna start my spiel, and then I'll let y'all go. I'm extremely proud of the New York Knicks. They have fought through some very hard times, just like the Pacers, just like the Timberwolves, just like the Thunder. They have fought through some hard times. This is what teams that fight through hard times trust their draft picks, trust their ownership, trust their front office. This is what happens. The 4 teams that are left available trust their ownership, trust their front office, trust their development teams to get them to the spots. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and throw out my prediction first. Knicks in 6. All right. And yes, I will say the X Factor and the Eastern Conference MVP will be none other than the leader.
Call Anthony Towns.
Oh no, sir. Not a chance. Not a chance. My Villanova King, my point guard, my 6-foot god. Let's go, Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's gonna get us there in 6 as long as he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, Tips. I'm gonna highlight Jalen Brunson because a lot of people. I'm gonna highlight Jalen Brunson for 2 things. One, I'm gonna highlight for people. I'm not gonna say who, but some people on this panel, when he first went to New York, thought New York overpaid. Now, Rafael, I'll let you guess. There's only one. There's only two who. There's only one of 2 who thought that. I'll let you be the deciding factor who thought that. But one
Dre,
of us thought Jalen Brunson.
Dre, why'd you think that New York overpaid?
My man,
for
smart.
Brunson?
And then
for the same reason they overpaid Evan Fournier. But we'll come back to that another episode.
But Jalen Brunson's a way better player. But that's that's obvious. And 2 things too. At the same time, he got overpaid, but at the same time, he still took less money because he could have got a big contract. So,
and if I'm honest, I think that not on his second contract with the Knicks.
Yeah,
yes. So me saying, and I'm sorry, I want to let you go, but me saying that he was overpaid years back was officially off of his playoff run with the Mavericks, and me thinking, hey, if the Mavericks didn't pay him,
thought it was just smoke and mirrors. You thought it was just smoke and mirrors.
Why would the Knicks then pay him? But it paid off, and I could always be wrong. And in that case, I was very, very wrong.
Well, in future, the unknown is the unknown at the time because this was 3 years ago when Jalen. But now, the Mavs that we know now, that it makes sense why he didn't get paid because that one guy was still in charge at the time too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
77 was still the man there.
Yeah, and then and then the fire Nico guy. But yeah, so highlight Jalen Brunson in that regard. He took less money and look at the roster. And then we see a team like with Boston, they put the team together to, win now. And they could have, barring injuries, before everything shook up the way it shook up, we did have Boston going back to the finals and winning it. But injuries are part of the game. And as we always allude to, the last team standing usually wins. The last team standing that's healthy, I should put that out there. So that, New York's healthy, they're hot. Conference Finals MVP, I go Jalen Brunson, but my X factor would be Mitchell Robinson, because they're going to be games where they're going to hack him because they're probably going to need him in there. Can you hit your free throws? Yeah. And an honorable mention, the X factor would be a OG Anunoby. How are you going to guard? Because I'm pretty sure he's going to be the one. Either him or Mikal Bridges is going to be the one guarding Halliburton.
I want to shelve this for another episode.
Yes, please.
I want to spend a whole episode talking about OG Anunoby and Kuminga. We'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
But those 2 people are the same
parallels,
people in
some
different
parallels.
Bodies. Yeah, but
okay.
We'll talk about that.
And
Rafael.
No,
yes, sir.
I ain't even got with that.
I'm sorry.
I ain't even got to the Pacers yet, man.
I'm sorry. Talk to
new
me.
host. But for the Pacers, my X factor, I'm gonna go not Halliburton, not Nembhard, not Nesmith. I'm gonna go Miles Turner. Miles Turner, can you hit your shots? Miles Turner, can you get rebounds? Can you get physical? Because there've been some games where there's been some games that I've seen Miles Turner 3 rebounds, 4 rebounds, 8 points. Like, can you be aggressive?
Because like you're on that same pace with me about Lou Dort in the Western Conference Finals.
And an honorable mention.
Honorable mention. Somebody off brand to say, hey, this is the X factor.
TJ McConnell. Can you run the bench?
Oh yeah.
TJ McConnell. You know what I'm saying? So that's
So,
an honorable mention X Factor.
Well, Rafael, no pressure here, but we got two Knicks picks right
Oh
here.
yeah,
So
and Knicks in
I mean, you've already voiced your displeasure
7.
with our picks.
7. Because
So
he took the role of contrarian because I was
All
going
right.
to lay out a case for the Pacers winning the series,
All right.
but he already took it.
you've already started. So I
Fandom
mean, just
aside,
tread
because
lightly.
we already know what I feel about the Knicks being a Heat fan. We
That's
already
right.
understand how much it hurts to see the Knicks actually winning, but I'm very happy for them.
Absolutely.
I think this is also going to be a very close series, but I'm going to take the Pacers in 6.
Okay.
And the reason I'm taking the Pacers in 6 is because your X factor is a 2 X factor. Playoffs MVP for the Pacers will be Tyrese Halliburton. That's number 1. Number 2, the X factor that I foresee having the biggest impact is going to be the chip on the shoulder Tyrese Halliburton has for being called underrated
Overrated, by the way.
or overrated,
Mm-hmm.
and Rick Carlisle, who knows how to win. Coaching is a big thing in the NBA. Who makes adjustments, who makes the best adjustments, and how they make the adjustments. And I think when you look at Carlisle, he's shown by beating the Cavaliers, he can make the adjustments really well. He's shown by beating the Boston Celtics, the team that was supposed to win. He made adjustments. So to me, my X factors are coaching on both of them. And I think Halliburton being considered under or overrated and possibly not mounting to anything in the NBA and the way he's playing with some grit, those are my X factors. And I'm saying Pacers in 6. Now,
Point guard.
Not to take away from Jalen Brunson, not to take away from the Knicks, because I think they're playing fantastic. I think they've put up the points to show that they belong where they are. They belong there. However, I just think that the Pacers will win it. And I think you're going to see Pacers, OKC in the finals.
I like
I
it.
don't think.
Small market heaven, baby.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with your prediction whatsoever. I know we're giving you a little strife in regards to your prediction, but I feel like it's a very accurate one. We got 4 teams left, so I don't feel like there's any wrong prediction. Rafael gave his prediction of a finals between the Thunder and the Pacers. So I guess I'm making it obvious by saying that I think that the finals will be between the Thunder and the Knicks. And I think Anthony is as well as agreeing with that sentiment. So we got 2 different predictions here. We looking forward to a really good conference finals that's going to start tomorrow on May 20th, which maybe this episode drops today, maybe this episode drops tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. Go ahead, Rafael.
I do have one more question, though. Would
Mm-hmm.
anybody be surprised if the Timberwolves pulled an upset?
No.
Not at all.
No.
So
Not at all.
we have to throw in that factor, too. If the Timberwolves pull an upset, we could be looking at again, an opportunity here to sit there and set the new face of the NBA.
Yeah.
And then
completely.
another question I have is if the Knicks let's say the Knicks win, and let's say the Knicks go into the finals and they upset the Thunder or they beat Minnesota, depending on who's in there. Does Jalen Brunson make a stake for face of the league now too, or do you have to include him in the conversation? Because that team went nowhere without him.
Yeah, it's a case. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a question that I have. I mean, I think it's a pretty valid question and pretty. I just want to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, he legitimizes his case.
I was about to say
He doesn't have like the star power as like all the other guys that we talked about, the SGAs, the Halliburtons, and the Ants. But I think he's somebody that the average fan or a normal person can get behind because an undersized guard winning a clutch player of the year, winning the finals, potentially winning the finals and the finals MVP. That's something that can get him over. If we're speaking
At
in
one
terms
point,
of
being
WWE,
considered counted out.
yeah,
Mhm.
in terms of WWE, like that can get him over with the fans.
I
He's a
agree.
Rey Mysterio when it comes to the when it comes to the NBA. And that's what I was about to allude to as well. Rafael, greatly timed question. We're looking at potential, all these potential matchups that we're looking at. But again, that's another one where, we're looking at it from the aspect of, wow, like it could really be face versus face. We could be looking at possibly seeing Anthony Edwards and Jalen Brunson against each other. What happens if Jalen Brunson wins? What happens if Jalen Brunson wins MVP? What happens if he's the one that becomes the face of the league? And I don't feel like there's an argument there.
I got another question too. Out of these 4 players, one of these players, see now one of these players bring home a championship. We just asking questions. These are all basically, superlatives or whatever you want to call it. We're not making any predictions. Where would these guys fall the longest being in their respective franchises being an all-time player? Like, because right now I still think KG is the best player in T-Wolves history. In the Pacers history, I would still give it to Reggie Miller in the Knicks.
Patrick Ewing.
Yeah. So
Patrick Ewing all day.
So, and then the Thunder, most people would be like Russ. Some would be
35.
KD. Some would be KD.
35.
Some be Russ. 1A, 1B maybe. But, Russ's loyalty was going to win it more so than compared to what KD did. So,
Yeah.
but obviously I think if SGA wins. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't care if SGA wins. He's kind of cementing his legacy there already. I mean, you really got to give SGA his credit. Now, for me, I feel the same way you do, Anthony. I really do, because I look at the Timberwolves and I go, well, KG is Minnesota Timberwolves the entire time. You know what I'm saying? He was the best Timberwolf player there. In New York, you can't mention the New York Knicks without John Starks, Patrick Ewing, like those guys,
or even Carmelo Anthony,
or even
first.
Carmelo Anthony. But the argument isn't who takes over. The argument is who steps up and who becomes the face of the decade for that team. Because now you're looking at that player being the face of that team for a long time. If Jalen Brunson brings a championship to New York, he will be memorialized. And he will be cemented with these other guys that we're talking about.
5 decades. 5 decades.
Yes.
I can't say about never go
Yes.
5 decades.
So,
and the other teams haven't even won one. So just imagine what that would do for them.
When you talk about it like that and you go, okay, well, where does that put them? I mean, I think that just shows who stepped up when they needed to step up. And I think that's a big thing in the NBA. You need to step up now.
Yeah.
And it's not about being the face of the franchise for a lifetime. It's about being the face of the franchise because the game has become a what have you done for me lately game. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming a face of the franchise for this fan base. Yeah. Because when these kids grow up and they start watching the NBA and they go, oh man, no, they don't know Reggie Miller. They didn't watch him. These little 10-year-olds that are watching basketball now that are getting hooked onto the game don't know who Reggie Miller is unless they're listening to the game. And
they don't even know Paul George played for the Pacers.
Or Paul George.
No.
Or they don't remember the Malice in the Palace.
No.
Right? They don't remember those things. So these 10-year-olds didn't live through that. It's like when you talk about Detroit Pistons, you're talking about Isaiah Thomas. You're talking about Chauncey Billups. You're talking about those kind of guys.
Rip Hamilton.
Right. Rip Hamilton. Like as a Heat fan, yes, we know Dwayne Wade, but younger fans don't
about
Tim
Eddie
Hardaway.
Jones.
Tim
don't
Hardaway.
know Tim Hardaway.
So
don't know Dan Marley.
About Eddie Jones.
Eddie Jones.
Talk about
the Dan Marleys, the Eddie Joneses. Those. So who's the new face of that team for this generation? And I think any 4 of them are the face of that generation now. Indiana's not going to get rid of Halliburton. SGA is going to be with the Thunder for a long, long time, especially after the run he's had. Anthony Edwards is going nowhere in Minnesota, and Jalen Brunson just signed himself a long-term deal in New York.
You're going to have a statue out there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you right now, when it comes time to extend him, he's going to get a long-term deal for the work he's done for the city of New York.
Yeah. So I'm guessing this is like a closeout question for this particular episode, but I don't know as far as what it does for these particular players and their legacies as far as is concerned with the franchise, I'd almost venture to say that you can't ask us because of the reasons that we just listed. We see these when we see these logos, when we see these team colors, we see the players that we grew up with, and that's why I asked the question that I asked earlier in the episode: what does it do for these particular members that are left in the playoffs? You know, does it really shoot Anthony Edwards into, you know, number one in Timberwolves history if he wins an NBA championship, something that KG was never able to do? Um, what does it do for Halliburton, who wasn't even originally drafted by the Pacers, who was traded there, who still would probably do more right now, and I wouldn't even say right now, but who probably still could do more for the Pacers than Paul George did when he was there. The Thunder, we talk about the Thunder. Who could do more than Kevin Durant? Who could do more than Russell Westbrook? Who brought multiple MVPs, finals
They
appearances,
put
playoff
OKC on the
appearances.
map.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean
yeah, they did.
that's exactly what they did.
They did.
Even down to the New York Knicks, like we said, the Jeremy Lins, the Carmelo Anthony's, the the Patrick Ewings, the John Starks. Like, there's no replacing that nostalgia. That's why I'm so happy as a pure fan about a new champion being crowned, because now we, the podcasters, the fans, we get to write their history. We get to say who they are. We get to place them in history. If the three of us get into this podcast after the finals is done and we say Jalen Brunson is the best in Knicks history, that's our opinion. One of our co-hosts, as I said before we started recording, very, very greatly places every time we record these episodes that we are just fans, purely talking about the love for the sport that we have. And this is another one of those times where in a couple weeks, we're about to see one of these players that are the faces of their franchise right now become something bigger than that, become something more than that, place themselves somewhere in history that they will get to write their names in history and never be unwritten, never be erased, never be undone. Even with what they do now in the conference finals will be big for their respective franchises because, like we said, Oklahoma, they've done a really good job of building their team. They've gotten a guy that they built their team around that could possibly cross them over.
But that's what's gotten lost in sport. I mean, and I hate to say it that way, but that's what's gotten lost in sport. The most important person in the sport isn't the player; it is the fan.
Always the fan.
We are the experience. We want the experience. The fan
Yep.
is the most important person when it comes to sports. And for
We
us,
get to
like that's why I think the MVP should be a fan vote, not
Hot
a
take, hot
player
take,
vote.
hot take, hot take.
Very
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie,
hot
that's
take.
hot. That's hot. I'm not
That's
gonna
a
lie.
very hot
I'm gonna
take.
let you
The
go,
M-
but I disagree. But I want to hear this out.
It's all right. The MVP should be a fan vote, at least partially fan voted.
I'll take that.
Partially fan voted because the fans are the ones that are investing into this league. We invest our time by watching the games. We invest our money going to the games. We invest our money in jerseys, in memorabilia, in gear, in all that stuff. We invest our time in talking about them on this platform. We not podcasters, the fan themselves spend their time listening to the sports radio, watching ESPN, coming up with their own determinations. They should have a say-so on who they feel the MVP should be, and that should be weighted into factor. Alongside, I mean, I think it should be three parts. You should have the Associated Press, you should have the fan votes, and you should have your players vote.
The peer, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
I think all three of those should be taken into account, each with different weights, of course.
We can slice this up into a pie, but how much of a percentage you think the fan vote should have? We chop it down. Let's say 35, 35, 30. That's a big piece of pie for the fans. So I'm gonna give a bigger number. I'll say 60, 20, 20 maybe.
I would be fine. I would be fine with 60, 20, 20.
Yeah.
I mean, but you still have to give the fans a little bit of it. You have to give the fans something to hold on to. Give them a little bit so that they can hang on to it because they are investing their time in the sport.
But how much also, because like I said, this is a hot take, but also like I'm gonna hear you out. But it's okay to disagree. But we're not being combative with it. But how much do you think with the fan vote? How much do you think emotion is going to be involved in that fan vote? I don't like this player. He beats my team constantly. I don't want to vote him as the MVP. Or remember when I showed up to the game and he didn't play that night. So even though he still played, he still played the amount of required games to be considered and stuff like that. How much would you think that goes into? How much you think emotion goes into that as well as a fan vote?
I mean, as a fan, emotion's always going to be into it, right? Like you're a fan, right? Nobody wants to see Patrick Mahomes win their 7th MVP because everybody, and even if he plays the best, if this was the way it went, if it was fan voted for, right? Patrick Mahomes may never win the MVP because he's so damn good, right?
And I could make a case for it if it was a fan vote. Jokic would have 5 MVPs right now.
Right. So because they're so good, nobody wants to see them be that good because people hate success. It just comes with the territory for being that good. When you're that good, people hate you because you're good. And when you're good, you're hated. It's just the way it is. It's the story of life since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But I think the fans' opinion should be heard. Even if you make it a separate award and make it fan MVP and call it the fan MVP if you want, I don't care.
I think that kind of gets diluted. That would kind of get diluted though.
But at the same time, you're looking at that's why you give them only 15-20% of the weight for the vote. You're not giving them the 100% vote. You're giving them a 15%. Hey, your opinion matters, but overall, you have these guys that are the pros that the peers matter more and the people who study that matter more, not the casual fan. But as a casual fan, we want to hear what you feel.
And I also brought it into emotion. It's also another thing that also can kill sports. And it kind of, even the topic we talked about before, because a lot of that, what I just mentioned, like what it does to these guys in history, a little bit of recency bias also plays into that as well. So how much would recency bias sway the fan vote of an MVP?
100% it'll play a role in it because it's a what have you done for me lately entertainment. It's what have you done for me lately. But at the same time, how you lose fans is when you neglect the fans. When you neglect the fan, I mean, you're still going to have your diehards. You're still going to have your people that watch it because it's competition and it's sport. But if you went to a basketball game, Anthony, you live in Dallas. If you went to a Dallas Mavericks game,
boycott,
and they just sit there and didn't want to listen to your opinion about concession stands, or they didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? If they didn't ask for your opinion on things, even if you didn't give it, if they thought about what you felt, like you walking away going, I feel like I'm part of the team and I'm feeling like I'm invested into it.
That's right.
And if you don't have that, then you're going to lose fans to go to other places that do provide that. I mean, we talked about it last week. The Atlanta Falcons have the most affordable concession stands in the NFL. They're a terrible team. Statistically, they're crap. However, their fans are loyal because Arthur Blank does what's right to the community.
I only laugh because everybody knows I hate all things Atlanta sports. So,
but you know what I'm talking about. Like
and that's an emotion, and that's like I said, and that's one of those emotion things that I asked. But
but am I wrong
mainly
in that
because I'm
statement?
trolling. You're not wrong at all. You're not wrong at all. He's very favorable when it comes to the fan experience,
and fans
compared to
fans
Jerry
love
World.
and fans love it. Look at it. Fans, the fans of the Atlanta Falcons love the Atlanta Falcons, and they hate the Cowboys.
But I think the only reason why we don't see, I don't even want to get into a dive with the Cowboys, so I'm gonna keep it short and brief. Only the way I see things won't change with the Cowboys, because guess what? Jerry knows no matter what, y'all still gonna show up. So
because they're America's team. They've always been America's team. They'll always be America's team. The star is a brand.
So that's
the star is the brand.
But yeah, that's why I kind of had to just do a little bit of pushback on that fan vote. Because a lot of people Yeah, because a lot of people, ain't gonna use context, and then like you provided a little bit more context. They're just gonna go out and say give a hot take, and then not try to provide any context with it. Then you just kind of get that side eye. Like I wasn't gonna do no side eye. That's why I was just like, hold on, let me ask these questions, and then we go from there.
No, but that's why I appreciate it. That's why sports is great, gents. That's why sports is great, because we can have the disagreement, we can have the discussion. We don't have to agree. But guess what? At the end of the day, it doesn't affect our friendships.
It doesn't.
At all.
Well, on that note, the previous polled question on the last episode, I think a center in football is the most important position. Strike that from the tape. I'm just talking. I can't make a case for a center. I know all, because when it comes to the offensive lineman, your left tackle, as far as would be the most, they get paid the most because they protect the quarterback's blind spot. But when we're talking about, like I said, and like we said, we can make cases for all the major sports in North America and across the world, because soccer is in Europe is the biggest thing ever. In other countries, you can make cases for the point guards, the pitcher, the catcher, the center in basketball, the quarterback, and the left tackle, a middle linebacker, the quarterback of the defense. You can make cases for all those. But the cream of the crop outside of quarterback, I'm gonna go left field. And I ain't talking about left field as in the position left field. I'm talking about left field as in, you wouldn't expect me to say this, I'm gonna go pitcher in baseball.
Okay.
Even though we getting to a point of the game where the pitch clock, and then we're starting to see the game a little bit more offensive friendly. But when it comes down to the playoffs, when games get the nitty gritty, as we see in basketball, you need to be able to have a bullpen. Because if you ain't got no bats, but you got the bullpen, you can get far. Well, I ain't gonna say you can get far. You can win some series, and you might not win. You go against a juggernaut. You got the Dodgers who stacked on both sides. Then hey, you might you lose, but you need to have a bullpen.
I'm going to say in hockey, it is a good defenseman. It's not the goalie, it's a good defenseman.
I'm going to say soccer, and it is the goalie. I feel like without the goalie, you don't have a team. I could say the same about a catcher or a goalie in hockey, but I feel like a soccer goalie is more important. There's a bigger space. There's a ball that travels at the lightning speed. Certain people's kicks can curve and travel faster than the norm. So I'm going to say the goalie in soccer.
I'll now, before we close the show, I have one more question, and I just want to ask everybody: best sports movie of all time.
Oh man, well we'll talk about that.
We'll
talk about that on the
The
next
longest
episode.
yard, man. I'm telling you, the longest yard. Waterboy.
Think about it. Just think about it. All right,
Oh,
boys.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to speed racer. No, let's keep going. All right, man. Wrap this up, man.
Well, as always, we appreciate y'all for joining us for another episode. This is episode number 12 of the Let Me Say This podcast. We're gonna keep these episodes churning out as often and as quickly as we possibly can. Here over the next week, you probably will see at least one or two more episodes with all three of us. Maybe a week where myself, I will not be here. I'll be traveling a little bit, get a little bit of vacation, a little bit of sunlight. Maybe I'll check in with the guys. Hopefully they'll be able to keep me posted on some updates in regards to the channel. I actually want to pose the question back in the comments for the fans, just in regards to what they think about the fan vote when it comes to awards, all stars, all pros, whatever the case may be. How do you guys feel like all stars, MVPs, all pros should be judged? Should the fans have a vote? Should they not? Should it be completely left up to the experts? Are we even experts? Is a real question. But as always, I'm here with Anthony Lykes, Rafael Rhodes, myself, Drey Davis. As always, like, share, subscribe if you're new. If you're not and you're returning, share this out. Get this about 5 different people. Doesn't matter. If not, we appreciate you for watching either way it goes. For Let Me Say This podcast from my 2 co-hosts and myself, we're out.